Commanders hire Dan Quinn to match with their new general manager, Adam Peters, to lead this franchise into the future.
The way that we live is not for everybody, okay? It's not, all right? Because we're going to run and put our bodies on people in a violent manner.
Whether the team is giving us the highest of highs or the blues, we'll cover it all here on Commanders Nightly News. I, of course, am your host, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. So, I had a chance to watch the film with the mob stand up. We in the building, you know what it is. Shout out to the mob. Shout out to all the Patreon supporters out there that continue to be the pillar and the rock of the Louie T Network. We watched the film yesterday, saw some of the things that we did well in the game, some of the things we did not so well. I think it was very clear that we hurt ourselves a lot in the game, and the officials hurt us too. That's a real thing that did happen on Sunday. But above all else, there were opportunities, I think, to run the football a little bit more. When you watch it back, the hits in the run game weren't that bad. There were a couple of plays that were negatives that, deter you a little, but that's who we've been this season. We've overcome, a -1 or a gain of none, and continued to run the ball. And there was really no excuse not to run it a little bit more. Because the biggest issue, going back and watching, and I think we can all kind of attest to this, whether you watched the game once and didn't watch it again, or you watched it multiple times, or you watched the film, whatever the case may be, I think it's a pretty safe assumption to say that one of the biggest reasons that we didn't win this game is because we didn't convert on third downs. And we came into the game as the #1 third down offensive efficiency team in the league. And we didn't get it done on third downs. It was the first game really since week 1 against Tampa Bay where we didn't execute on first downs. And, we went through that stretch where we didn't punt. Well, the way you don't punt is you convert on third downs and you keep drives alive. And we didn't do that. And this was the first game this season, going back and watching, I didn't really think about it until I watched the film. We had tremendous field position in this game. And for a team that is taking pride in wherever the ball ends up, we're going to drive it down the field into some sort of scoring position, whether it's a field goal attempt or a touchdown, for a team that hasn't created a ton of turnovers, hasn't had a ton of great field position this season. For all of the things that we've overcome in the field position department, part of the reason that we lead the league, or was one of the leaders, I don't think we ever led the league in time of possession, but we were top 5 for much of the season in time of possession, probably not anymore after Sunday's contest, is because 1, as I just mentioned, we convert third downs, but 2, we have long fields ahead of us, right? Because the defense wasn't getting stops a lot of the games this season. And even if they did, outside of maybe the Cleveland game where they got us some stops deep in Cleveland's, territory. And so we were able to get great field position sometimes in Cleveland territory when we possessed the ball. For the most part, we've had to drive the length of the field. And so you get these first downs, you're driving 75, 80, 82, 90 yards. It allows you to eat up a lot of clock and win time of possession. And in this game, we had tremendous field position, especially in the first half. And we squandered that field position in the first half, specifically in the first quarter. And we got what we deserved, honestly speaking. We had 2 drives that started roughly at midfield in this game and came away with a total of 3 points against a Ravens team that if you're going to win, you got to score points, because going into the game, they were the #2 scoring offense. They're now the #1 scoring offense in the NFL. We're now the #2 behind Baltimore. And we knew we had to go in there and score, and we came away with 3 points off of 2 separate possessions that started at midfield. That's ridiculous. If we get into the specifics of what guys did on the field, I didn't think we played physical enough defensively. There were some situations where I thought we needed to be a little bit more firm and aggressive in attacking blockers and things of that nature. And I'd like to see us get back to that in week 7 versus Carolina. I thought Brandon Coleman was okay. I did not think he was great. But at the end of the day, offensive line overall was solid enough in this game for us to get done what we needed to get done. And, we dropped some passes. We missed some opportunities. Jayden had a couple of missed throws in the game. The one on a 3rd down to Noah Brown when he rolled out of the pocket, and it should have been picked off. Comes to mind. For the first time this season, we really haven't had batted balls this season. That was something that kind of reared its ugly head in this game. One particular 2nd down and about 7, we throw the ball to Ertz. He's literally a yard in front of the sticks. He's going to catch it, and if he doesn't get the 1st down, it's 3rd and 1. We're going to either convert or at a bare minimum, we're in field goal range, right? It gets bad at the line of scrimmage. We don't convert on 3rd down, and that's the play where Jayden then throws it over Noah Brown's head by like 4 yards right to the safety who drops the interception. And, it's those types of things that we just haven't had to deal with this season, So it was one of those games where there are a lot of firsts for the Commanders for this particular season with this particular group. And it was a learning experience. And after watching the film, and I know I tell you guys this all the time, so this isn't new. This isn't the first time you heard me say this, but I feel even better after watching the film because there were opportunities galore in this game. And I know that the coaching staff saw the same things that we saw watching the film, and they're going to point those things out, and those guys are going to improve upon some of the things that they didn't do well. And that's what we've seen from this team from week 1 to week 2, from week 2 to week 3 to 4 to 4 to 5. And that's how we've gotten to this point is every week there's incremental growth in this football team. Even in the weeks where we dominate and we win big, we still see growth the next week. And something else that I want to point out, and I talked about this, is every week with the defense with Joe Witt Jr., they specifically talk about something that they want to see. And we go out and we see that. Now, yes, the defense regressed and we got a lot of injuries, and we're going to talk about those things here in a second. But I walked away really enthusiastic about what this team can be moving forward. And I always have to remind myself that we are in the infant stages of this recalibration. We have yet to truly find our north. And this was one of those games where we were tested from a standpoint of what's your identity? You talk about forging an identity. I talk about being who you are. What's your identity? We didn't have one in this game. We kind of just went out there and we tried to will ourselves to a victory on the shoulders of 5. And we really didn't have an identity. And that was a little bit disheartening. The identity of this team is supposed to be we're physical. We're going to run it no matter what. We're going to be aggressive. We're going to push the envelope on 4th downs, sort of like the Detroit Lions, right? Kind of like their model of the way they do things. Like they're physical every week. They're going to run the football. Whether you can stop the run or not, they're going to run the football. And even if it's not successful, they're going to run the football because they got to run it because play action fake is a huge part of what they do. And there's no play action fake if you don't run the football. Even if you're not having any success, you still have to run it so that the play action fake works. So they're going to run the football and they're going to be aggressive on 4th down, and they're unapologetic for doing both. And I thought we were establishing that identity of, hey, look, it doesn't matter. I always bring up the Cincinnati game because it's the easiest and the best example of this. Our run game did not work that night, specifically with Brian Robinson Jr. We had the big hit with Austin Eckler for the touchdown, and he had some success. He only had like 3 carries that night, but it was like 3 for 35, including like a 27-yard run for the touchdown or whatever it was. But Brian Robinson Jr. led the team in rushes that night. It was 16 rushes for 31 yards. Again, that's less than 2 yards a carry. But we still kept running it because that's who we are. We're going to run the football, right? And somehow we got away from that on Sunday. We weren't aggressive. We didn't push the envelope on fourth downs. We put too much trust in this defense, and they haven't earned the right. Even though they were coming off their two best performances of the season, they didn't earn the right for us to put our trust in them and take the ball away from the strength of this team, which is the offense, and put the onus on them to go get a stop. They didn't earn that right. The offense has earned the right to go for it on fourth down. And if they don't get it, defense, figure it out. Because it doesn't matter if we punt it away and let you play defense with 95 yards of grass to defend, they're still going to score a touchdown. So whether it's 95 or it's 45, who gives a shit, right? That's my mentality. Until you prove otherwise, till you can go out and get stops in tough situations, I have no reason to believe that that's who you are and that's what you're going to do. So I'm going to put the ball in the hands of the group that's proven to me time and time again this year that they can find a way to get it done. And that, watching it back, it was frustrating watching us punt on 4th and 6, watching us settle for a 55-yard field goal on 4th and 5. It was tough because I thought we were forging an identity of being aggressive, but maybe that's not who we are. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But it's all trial and error, right? It's all part of the process. Everyone's learning, and I love watching this thing develop in front of my eyes. It's fun to watch. Disappointing that we lost, but I understand that this is all a process, and we got to be willing to go through the good and the bad. So a lot of good takeaways from the game and some things that were a little frustrating, but at the end of the day, this team will continue to forge forward, and they will get better because of it. So that was the film study, essentially. And then I do want to say this as we now transition, it is Wednesday, to the Carolina Panthers and what they bring to the table. This is a dangerous Panthers team. Make no mistake about it. And I love what DQ said, and we will expound upon that. But I'll leave you with this as we transition to In Other News. Lots to talk about there with the team in today in particular. But he said, he was asked a question about Carolina being 1-5, and do you talk to your team about the Panthers being 1-5 and like, don't pay attention to the record. This is a dangerous team, et cetera, et cetera. And DQ was like, nah, I don't have to talk about that at all because it's about us. Like, we got a lot of things to clean up. So we're really focusing in on us and what we need to do to be better. And if we take care of those things, we feel like everything will take care of itself. How many times have I told you guys that same exact thing, right? When the team didn't adhere to that, right? When it was Ronald Rivera or it was Jay Gruden, and you know, we would go out here and we would over obsess about the opposition, and then we would get our teeth kicked in, right? Because they don't want to have a letdown game, right? Oh no, the Panthers are 1-5. Like, how many times have we done that in the past? And I said, look, let's not worry about anybody else. Let's not worry about the Eagles, the Cowboys, the Giants. You know, let's worry about us. If we take care of us, we should be fine. If you feel like you're the better team, then if you just go out and you take care of what you need to take care of, if you go out there and execute, if you're the better team, if you feel like you're the better team, which we feel like we're the better team this week, if you do the things that need to be done, you should win the game. And you should do it comfortably at that. And I love that mindset of it's about us. It's about us. I think that's the right approach coming off of your first loss in a month as you head into week 7. Celebrating Darryl Green in week 7 is massive. And as we transition to In Other News, I want to start there. The team is just, this organization is day and night different from what it was a year ago this time when, you know, Josh Harrison and his group had just taken over. You fast forward to 2 years ago when Snyder was still the owner, and this was a dumpster fire of an organization. And the whole Sean Taylor thing was a mess, and the wire statue and all that. They had their Sean Taylor's family take a picture near a porta potty, and all, like, it was just done so distastefully, right? Everything was so cheap, and it was ridiculous, and it wasn't done in proper taste. It wasn't fitting of the player and his honor and his memory or any of that. And then you come full circle now, and we've turned the page, and this organization is first rate. They're first rate. I'm gonna tell you a quick story. I don't know if I reposted this or not. Somebody sent me this, and it was from, I want to say it was from the Grant and Danny show. All right. Grant Louie, or Grant Paulson, excuse me, had a post on X that I saw. Someone sent it to me. And he tells this story about a player, and I think I know who the player was, but he didn't name the player. But he said, this player is going to remain anonymous, but recently a player got injured. They went to the locker room. They were injured. Adam Peters, not the staff, not some Joe Schmo, not a trainer. Adam Peters physically himself texted that player's father and told him everything that went on in the training room and gave him updates on his son's status. What's going on? Here's what we're doing. Here's his prognosis. We'll keep you posted if anything changes. That's some high school shit. You don't get that kind of service in the NFL. And that player was so grateful. There was such a deep gratitude to Adam Peters for him taking the time. The game is still going on. Adam Peters could be up in the press box taking the game in. He doesn't have to come down into the locker room to check on this player. There's a game going on outside. He could send somebody else to do that. Get the information and then send it. No, he went into the locker room. He got the information firsthand. And then he reached out to that player's parents, his father in particular, and gave him intimate details about the situation and put him at ease. Your son is fine. We're taking care of him right now as we speak. And that player was so indebted to Adam Peters. And that player's parents are like, this is first rate. And that player had been at multiple stops. And he's like, no other team has ever done that for me. It's different. It feels different because it is different. And I only bring this up because I'm watching the tribute to Darryl Green, and we saw the one earlier this year when they did the walls around the facility, and they changed a lot of things, and they put up a whole wall that kind of honored Darryl Green. And remember, they were kind of letting him know that he was going to be honored this year, but he didn't know, right? He thought he was coming there reading an ad for the team or whatever. And so they surprised him with his jersey retirement, right? With his number being put up in the Ring of Fame, and no other commander in history will wear 28 again, which nobody was wearing 28 anyway. It was already off limits, but officially, we're going to make it official. It's off limits. And they surprised him, and he teared up, and his family was there, and it was great. And I said, that's how you honor the legends of your organization. That's how you do it. So they bring him on, and I retweeted this, and I'm pretty sure most of you have seen it. They put this on the social media platforms, IG, Facebook, X, and they showed this suite that they have for the Darryl Green family for this week's game, where he's going to be honored at halftime. And his jersey is forever going to be etched in Commanders, Washington Redskins football team lore. No one will ever wear the number 28 again in this organization's history, as it should be. And his family will watch from a suite that has been decorated with all things Darryl Green. And as he walked into the suite that his family will be in on Sunday, taking in the game, he was in awe of all of the things that they had collected over the life of his career, going all the way back to when he was in high school. They used to do this thing called the fastest man in the NFL race, which I think is pretty cool. And the first one that they did, he ended up winning. And they had a picture of it, and he couldn't believe they had the picture. They had cards, they had helmets from his high school days. And they had like a locker, and it was pretty cool how they set it up. A locker with his from the 70s, which when he was in high school, and in the 80s when he was, rookie and just getting his feet wet in the NFL, in the 90s. And it was just great because you see how much of an impact, how much football meant to him and how long he had played and dedicated his life to the game. Not you won't ever see that again at the cornerback position, first and foremost. You'll never see a guy play in 3 different decades. I can assure you of that. You'll never see it again. And they put all of his accomplishments on the wall, and it was just, it's how you do it, man. It's how you take care of the ones that took care of you, that paved the way for us as fans to feel like, hey, this matters. It's just another example of, man, this organization is different. And I say that to say this team is different. This season is different. And with that said, games like this week are different. Because in the past, I would be concerned, and I am, because I'm concerned every week. That's what I do. That's my move, is I respect every opponent, but I fear none. So this week, I'm going to talk about Carolina like they're 5-1 and not 1-5. But the truth of the matter is, we're better than the Panthers. And we're going to go out and we're going to prove it on Sunday. And I fully expect that to take place. Now, whether it's by 1 or 21, don't know, don't care. Would I like it to be by 28 points? Yeah, I would. Did you see the number? We'll talk more about that tomorrow. But I'm pretty sure you've seen the line for the game. When's the last time the lines looked like that in our favor? Hell, just a couple of weeks ago, we were the biggest dog of the week. And we went and won. We went on the road and we won. So anything can happen. That's why you can't overlook Carolina. But this group won't. It's not in their DNA. It's not how they've been coached. It's not how they're wired. Did you see the mic'd up with Andrew Wiley? Over the last, I'll say year, roughly, I've gained a greater appreciation for Andrew Wiley. Do I want him starting at right tackle? No. I would prefer him not. But am I okay with it? Yeah, I am. Could you do a lot worse? I've said this before. You can do a hell of a lot worse than Andrew Wiley at right tackle. But what I've come to realize, and this is what I try to explain to some of you when it comes to trading for players and adding guys from the outside into something that you're trying to build and foster, is that you always got to take into consideration, how does this work into the ecosystem that you've built? How does this work? If you remove something from the ecosystem, sometimes it doesn't function the way that it did before you remove that thing from the ecosystem. Andrew Wiley is more of a leader on this team than any of us thought. And Dan Quinn, he was asked today, who are some of the guys that have stepped up as leaders that you didn't necessarily assume were going to be leaders when you first assembled this group of guys this season? And right out of his mouth, without hesitation, Andrew Wiley was the first name he said. Andrew Wiley, and then he said Sam Cosmi. He said specifically on the offensive line, but Wiley is a guy, and then you watch the mic'd up. And Wiley's a funny guy. I really enjoyed his mic'd up. I did. It was 9 minutes of grunting, nice comms, meaning communication. He was really happy. He was really pleased with the communication on Sunday. I was as well. We didn't have a lot of, pre-snap errors, especially from the offensive line in a loud environment. And he said it was the best communication they've had all season. So that's good to know that they're gelling up front. But it was my favorite part outside of the coin toss when he came back to the sideline and said, that was perfect execution. I stuck to the plan. I looked at that coin, and I've never been more sure in my life that it was going to be heads. I loved it. All right. I love the dialogue between he and the offensive lineman. There's so much sarcasm and they're having a good time. I can tell he and Sam Cosmi are really good friends. And Allegretti is also a hilarious guy. So those I could listen to those three in particular talk all day because they're always talking about some non-football shit, or they're talking about something in a way that you just wouldn't expect them to be talking about on the sidelines or even on the field during the game. It's hilarious. But the thing that I love the most about listening to Andrew Wiley mic'd up was the simple fact that after the loss, when you could see the game was over, the Ravens were taking knees. And before that, he's on the sidelines, knows everybody by their first name, you know, equipment guys helping him out. Hey, thanks, fill in the blank, right? After the game's over, he goes up to every dude, every guy, guys dressed, playing, practice squad, you know, staff members, assistant offensive line coach, you know, strength and conditioning coach, you know, B-Rob wasn't playing, went to him, Terry. Hey, good game, guys. Good shit, guys. We'll get them next time. Hell of a game, guys. You know, he's the leader on this team. And as much as y'all like to shit on Andrew Wiley, he's a necessary piece this season. He's a necessary piece. He's a necessary piece. And he's actually not playing that poorly this year. That helps too. But I digress. Obviously, it's Wednesday. So we heard from the head coach, Dan Quinn. We heard from the quarterback, Jayden Daniels. We'll get to what was said by both of those gentlemen. However, before we do that, we will get into the first injury report for both teams heading into week 7. And then after that, we will get into some roster moves that have been made. And then we will get into those pressers. So let's get to the injury report. And we start with the good guys. So as you can see, it is quite a long list, as you would expect. That was a really physical game against Baltimore. Really physical game. But this is a really good list. It's a really good list. I'm encouraged by it. Dorance Armstrong. This is the best news of the day. His rib injury, not as serious as one was led to believe it would be. DQ said it's not worthy of IR, an IR stint, which is praise him worthy, right? But I don't think he's going to play this week. But he called Dorance Armstrong one tough son of a bitch. And so he expects him to try to push through and find a way to play. I don't think he's going to play this week, personally. And I don't like to be that guy, but I'm going to be that guy this week. It's Carolina. If there were ever a week he could sit out, miss a game, we can find a way to get it done without him, it'd be this week. We don't need to push him. If he can heal up this week and be ready for the Bears next week, I'm all for it. And again, I don't like to be that, hey, we should be able to win this game without him, but I'm going to be that guy this week. Yeah, if he's not ready, and I know this team's going to do what's in the best interest of the player, which is why they sat Brian Robinson Jr. out. You know, he probably could have played this week, but they're like, nah, it's not worth it. You know, it's just one game. Rather have him for the rest of the games prior to the bye before he can finally get a chance to rest. So we're not going to push him, and I don't think they're going to push Dorance Armstrong this week either. That's my personal belief. Ertz always rest on Wednesday. Tyler Owens has missed the last 2 games with a shin injury, so we'll keep an eye on him. And then everybody else is either limited or full. Noah Brown played with the groin. Percy played with the groin. Cleveland Farrell played with the knee. Frankie Louvu, that's a new one, toe. Quan Martin played with the neck. Terry McLaurin just getting a rest day. Cool beans. Deron Payne, knee, limited. Brian Robinson Jr., that's another good sign. He practiced today, even on a limited basis. He hasn't practiced at all in 2 weeks. So the fact that on a Wednesday where he could have just been out today, he still went through probably individual drills and didn't do anything team related, which is fine. Just the fact that he was able to go through that is a good sign. Emmanuel Forbes, thumb, and Jordan McGee, knee, both full. And I think this is the week we see Jordan McGee activated off of his 21-day window, off of the PUP list. And I fully expect Jordan McGee to be ready to go this week. And something was interesting that was asked of DQ about, McGee's role potentially and what that might be able to do for a guy like Frankie Louvu. We'll talk about that when we get to DQ. So let's get to the ops for this week. The Carolina Panthers, their list of players on the injury report, pretty significant and long as well. A little different for them, a lot more DMPs for them than for the good guys. Just going through this list, we don't need to go through every single player that is on it. Some players matter more than others. There are some very impactful names, and we'll go through those quickly. Starting with Jadeveon Clowney. He has a shoulder injury. I don't think he played last week against Atlanta. It'd be great if he didn't play against us as well. Look, I'm not telling you that Jadeveon Clowney is this massive difference maker, but he can be. And if he doesn't play, good. That's great for us. Troy Hill, rest. He's one of their starting corners. So he's good. He's just resting. Same with Chuba Hubbard, who is right now probably 60% of their offense on the ground is Chuba Hubbard. So they're going to rest him. Josie Jewell is a really good linebacker in this league. A free agent they signed from Denver. He's got a hamstring and a groin injury, and he's not practicing. That's something to keep an eye on because if he can't go, that's another big piece of their defense out of the lineup. Deontay Johnson is a stud receiver. All right. I'm watching this dude this year. And, the first couple of weeks with Bryce Young out there, he wasn't getting the football. He was getting frustrated. They put in Andy Dalton, and the man has been surgical ever since. He's really good. If he can't go, and he's probably going to go. My guess is he's going to go. But keep an eye on him because if he can't, that's advantage Commanders. With our secondary, I would love nothing more than Deontay Johnson to sit out this game, but he's going to play. I firmly believe that. He's a really good receiver. He's a number one, a low-level one, but he's a number one nonetheless. So we don't have anybody that covers number ones around here in case you haven't noticed. We have some guys that are close. Mikey Samer still isn't too bad. And Noah Igbenogany competes his ass off, but I'm pretty sure you've known we don't have anybody that really covers ones around here. So if he can't go, that's a help. Tyler Moton is their starting right tackle. And if he can't go with an elbow, again, advantage good guys. Ashawn Robinson, knee depth on the defensive line, something to keep an eye on. Jonathan Brooks, limited. He had his 21-day window started today. Don't think he's going to play. Similar to Nick Chubb, when we played the Browns, his week started that week. His clock started that week, rather. I don't think Jonathan Brooks, this is a second-round pick. The first running back taken in this past year's 2024 NFL draft. This kid can play. Like, with the way they're run blocking, I don't want to see Jonathan Brooks, and I don't think we will. So I'm not too concerned. But that's a guy to look out for moving forward. Like, if you're in fantasy and you're looking for somebody to pick up on the waiver wire that could maybe win you a game, swing the balance in your favor, I'll tell you, when this guy finally gets activated with the way the Panthers are run blocking right now, pick up Jonathan Brooks. But you didn't hear that from me. David Moore is another solid wide receiver dealing with the knee, limited. And as you get down this list, Tommy Tremble, one of their tight ends, limited with a concussion. And so there's that. It's a lot of names here, but those are the ones that kind of stick out. And we'll continue to monitor this list as the week progresses and see if these are some names that ultimately might not factor in the outcome of this game. So let's go ahead and transition over to some roster updates. So the Washington Commanders have placed defensive tackle Jonathan Allen and defensive end Javonte Jean-Baptiste on injured reserve amid multiple roster moves on the defensive line. Let's stop right there, put a pin in it. We'll come back to the rest of this. I just need to make sure we're clear that Jonathan Allen has been placed on season-ending IR. Okay, he's going to have surgery on his pec. Meanwhile, defensive end Javonte Jean-Baptiste has been placed on short-term IR with an ankle injury. X-rays were negative on his ankle injury, so there's nothing broken, no fractures or anything like that. It's just a significant sprain, so he's going to be out the next 4 weeks. He will not be eligible to return until week 10 versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. If I'm not mistaken, let's see, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So he should be eligible to return in week number 10 versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. So that sucks because watching the film, he's been really good. He was really good in the Ravens game too. He's been a pleasant surprise. I was wrong about him. I was very disrespectful. Very, very, very disrespectful. And he's exceeded my expectations by a lot. So sucks that he got injured because he was playing well. Now, to continue on in corresponding moves, so you put 2 guys on IR that were on the active roster. So now you have a little space to maneuver. So in doing that, Washington signed defensive tackle Sheldon Day. And I told you him and Carlos Watkins, someone told me Watkins had already been picked up by someone else off our practice squad and put onto their active roster. So I don't think Carlos Watkins is any longer a member of this team. But Sheldon Day is still here. And I said, he's probably, remember when Johnny Newton wasn't ready in week 1, Sheldon Day was the guy that took his place and played against Tampa Bay in week 1 and actually was very active. Remember, we had 8 tackles for loss, and Sheldon Day was very active in that game. But he's been activated from the practice squad and signed to the active roster, as well as Washington signed defensive end Jalen Holmes from the Jets practice squad to our active roster. And so they signed Carl Davis to our practice squad to take the place of Sheldon Day, who's been activated to the 53-man roster. So few moves there. And we'll see if any other moves correspond with some of the things that have been done here over the last 48 hours. But those are the big ones there. And big shout out to Jalen Holmes, a fellow Lake Taylor Titan. Tighten up. I'm so glad I go to LTH. Shout out to that Titan for getting some work close to home, man. Represent like the red and white. Do it here from the 757. So let's talk about what DQ had to say. Or excuse me. Yes, DQ. I said that right. At his press conference, DQ talked about, the mindset of this team. He said, one of the things that, and he said this before, this is not the first time he said that this year. He said that one of the things he was, really excited about was he saw a lot of guys in the building yesterday. Keep in mind, Tuesday is the players' day off. They don't have to be here. And he said he saw a lot of guys in the building, right? So that's always something that is encouraging for him. And he's like, there's a want to and a grit about this group of guys. And there's a willingness to put in the work that is necessary to take that next step. And one of the things you heard when Andrew Wiley was mic'd up, and I heard your jokes. I saw your comments talking about how I was shitting on Andrew Wiley and all. I didn't want him starting. I'm not going to front. But I also wasn't the one that said this offensive line was going to be garbage because he was starting. I just didn't want him to start. There was no shame in that. I didn't want him off the roster. Some of y'all wanted this man packed up and sent to Valdosta. You wanted him sent to Rancho Cucamonga. I didn't want him off the roster. I was even willing to say, why not try him out at left guard? I was like, he's already here. He's getting paid. Might as well stay here. And then once I realized, oh shit, he's starting. Like, he's not going anywhere. I said, you know what? Him and Cosme have a rapport. And guess what? You know what? That probably means a lot more than we're giving, credence to. That probably means a lot more than we're giving credit to. Like, there's a continuity there. Just I like Wiley more. Remember, let me tell you, this is a great analogy. Remember how I told you I felt about Bobby McCain? I didn't love Bobby McCain, the player, necessarily. But I told you, I love Bobby McCain, the leader, the guy in the locker room. He's holding guys accountable. Loved Bobby McCain. And you know what? We did miss that next year when shit fell apart and there was a lot of finger pointing and guys wanted to be traded in the season and this, that, and the third. We missed a Bobby McCain type guy to say, nah, that ain't how this shit's going to go. We're going to hold each other accountable. We missed that in the locker room. I'm just here to tell you, we missed that in 2023. And I told you, I didn't love Bobby McCain. I wanted to replace Bobby McCain on the field, but I loved him in the locker room. I feel the same way about Andrew Wiley. I have a greater appreciation for Andrew Wiley. And I actually think he's a really good run blocker. But I've told you that before. That's not the issue I have with Andrew Wiley. I have an Andrew Wiley pass blocking problem. And he's been better this year. He's still not great, but he's Andrew Wiley. And every now and again, you're going to get a false start, right? And then you know what he did on the next play after the false start? He took not Kyle Van Noy, I think it was Trenton Simpson. You know what he did to Trenton Simpson? He put his dick in the dirt. Pancaked his ass on the touchdown to Terry, the first one. So, look, man, I'm not telling you that Andrew Wiley is this great right tackle. I'm just telling you I've got a greater appreciation for him. Anyway, I digress. And yes, we do still need to replace Andrew Wiley. I agree. Anyway, so he talked about this group and the dedication that they have and how he's really confident in their ability to put in the work. He also talked about us. And I referenced that earlier, how it ain't about Carolina this week. We're going to put in the work. We're going to study what Carolina does well, and we're going to try to scheme up ways to stop that. And same thing with what they do defensively. We're going to try to find ways to combat that. But it's about us and what we do and what we need to fix and how we need to be better, right? And I love that. I love that approach. He talked about Carolina, and this is what I'm talking about. He's like, yo, their run game right now is sick. Like, they're running that shit. All right. They ran it against the Bears a couple weeks ago. They ran it against Atlanta last week. They ran it against Cincinnati. They ran it really good against Cincinnati 3 weeks ago. Like, Chuba Hubbard's, he's making some plays. And DQ said that interior of their offensive line is playing at a high level right now. And they revamped that interior. They spent a lot of good, hard-earned dollars on that interior offensive line. And they're playing well. And I've watched that Falcons game last week, and there was some 18-wheeler size holes that they were creating up front. Like, those skilled though. Felt like the special teams coach on Waterboy. Like, oh shit, Farmer Fran. Them some big ass holes, man. So we gotta be on our P's and Q's, Y's and Z's. DQ talked about his comfort level with specific position groups. He talked about the receiver group and, the addition of Noah Brown really kind of filling that group out and making them whole. I totally agree with that too. Could you imagine where we would be without Noah Brown right now? Like, this group was incomplete. And then Noah Brown came in and made that group whole. They were a formidable group with Noah Brown. Without him, it feels like there's a void there, right? He talked about the tight end group and the dependability there. Running backs, he's like, we really feel good about our running backs. And he talked about, the injury situation. Jonathan Allen, as a leader, stepped up and told Johnny Newton, hey, it's your time. Like, don't worry about me. You getting the opportunity, make the most of it. And he said, I thought that was a great message from a veteran who's out to a guy that's going to get an opportunity. He said, I loved it. And he talked about guys seizing the moment, taking advantage of the opportunity. And he always likes to point out Jeremy McNichols because he's like, yo, he wasn't getting any run the first 2 games. And then, Austin Eckler went down in week 3 in game. This man had to step up. It's the biggest third down of the season to that point. And he went out, didn't know what the hell to do, asked Jayden Daniels, and he stepped up in the A-gap and back body dropped the damn linebacker. And he's like, this dude is tough as nails, and whatever we ask him to do, he's ready to do it. No questions asked. And he's like, I feel good about the safety group and the mixing and matching we've been doing with them. He talked about a conversation he had with Emmanuel Forbes Jr. And he's like, look, yeah, you ain't been playing. And doesn't mean that we don't still believe in you. But he's like, you keep putting the work in and you keep being prepared. And when your opportunity comes, don't miss. Simple as that. We still believe in you. And there's going to be another opportunity for you. And don't we know it? We see the secondary. There's more likely than not another opportunity for Emmanuel Forbes at some point. Whether you like it or you don't like it, most of us don't like it. But I haven't given up on him yet. But boy, it's getting late early, boy. It's getting pretty late early. I'm not stopping anybody from using the B words these days. Okay. I'm not doing that anymore. It is what it is at this point. But I still think there's something in there, right? There's something in there. I don't know if we'll ever get it out or not. But at the end of the day, DQ talked about Darrell Green as well and how cool it is to be honoring him and, having had him around the building several times this offseason, how much of a legend he is in this area and what he's done for this team. And, he said he couldn't, think this couldn't happen to a better guy. And he said that the stat that always gets him is the 19 consecutive years with an interception, which, again, that will never be done. There's a lot of records that Darrell Green set that'll never be broken. And that's another one of those ones where you look at it and you just go, how in the hell did that happen? So there's a lot that comes with that. And we got to honor Darrell the right way. We got to honor 28 the right way. We got to go out and we got to take care of Carolina and not even allow this to be close. Let him enjoy himself. And a lot of alumni are going to be there. I remember the alumni weekend used to be some shit when we used to do it. They're going to do it right. This is going to be a really good game. It's going to be cool to see some of the old faces show up that haven't been here in quite some time. And all there to honor Darrell Green. And we got to honor Darrell by putting out a good performance on the football field. So Jayden Daniels spoke, and he talked about throwing guys open. And he said that, look, this is a league full of talented defenders. They watch film. They know route concepts and combinations and what we're trying to get to. And so sometimes you just got to throw dudes open. And he said, I pride myself in being able to do that. Boy, did he ever on Sunday. Like DQ said, those were some of his best rips. I said that before DQ said that. I said that after the game. Like, you want to talk about some big time throws in the most crucial of moments. It's that game. Nothing's going to top the throw to Terry against Cincinnati. But these are some close seconds here that we saw on Sunday. I'll tell you that much. He talked about his relationship with Bryce Young. Now, this I did not know. I know both of them were from the West Coast, so I didn't know that there was close proximity between the two of them from that standpoint. But I did not know because I want to say Bryce Young, he went to school. He went to one that prestigious school, high school in Vegas, I think. Bishop Gorman, I think it's called. I think he was the quarterback there, if I'm not mistaken. And I think that's out of Vegas, if I'm not mistaken. So he and Jayden, when you come up around each other in the same time frame, you're going to the same camps and things of that nature. So he's like, he's one of his best friends. I didn't realize they were that close. He's like, I talk to him all the time. And, I just, he's in a tough situation, but I always tell him, keep his head up, continue to seek, God and, that sort of thing. And I didn't realize they had that close of a relationship. So that was pretty interesting to find out. But, he talked about the Carolina defense, and he mentioned J.C. Horn and, how physical Carolina can be, how they're good tacklers, and, they're going to have to bring their A game essentially. And he talked about the run game and, not having B-Rob last week, but really, we, no matter who's back there, we got to execute. And he talked about one of the biggest things that stunted our growth on Sunday against Baltimore was third downs. And I just had a whole spiel, at the top of the show to lead off about third downs and some of the different things that, we watched on film. But it was apparent that the third down struggles, a lot of them were rooted in lack of first and second down success. We were in third and long way too often in the game. And against a Baltimore Ravens defense that's smart, aggressive, and really good at, and like I said, we were one of the best third down offenses. We were the best third down offense going in the game. And Baltimore was one of the best third down defenses. I said something had to give. Well, it was us. We didn't execute. And what's crazy is watching the film, we were actually really successful on first downs, on play action fake, taking and getting chunks. We did that several times on first down. The problem was when we didn't have those chunk plays, when we didn't go play action fake on first downs, and we just ran it or we tried to throw something quick, it was unsuccessful largely in the game. And then second downs weren't kind to us. That's the down that I think hurt us the most in this game, was second down, because a lot of first downs were 4 or 5 or 6, right? Or it was a big play on first down, 28, 24, 18, 17, 15. We had a lot of those. You think about those big Zach Ertz plays in this game. Those were first down plays. There's a Terry play over the middle of the field, first down play. There's a play to Noah Brown on the first down, big chunk play. We had a number of those throughout the game, right? The Eckler play, I believe, the swing out into the flats on the first possession. I want to believe that. I think that was second down. That was second down. After first down run, we threw it to him and he ran all the way down there. But we had a lot of those plays. Second down kicked our ass, put us in a lot of third and long situations in this game. So he talked about not converting on third downs. He also acknowledged that, hey, teams are trying to take me away as a runner on the read option. So I'm going to have to do a better job of reading. I told you, I think he's been predetermining. And he didn't say he was predetermining, but he said, I got to do a better job of reading the defensive end. And I think that's his way of acknowledging I might not have been as sharp as I needed to be in deciphering what to do with the football. Because I think he was just like, hey, I'm keeping this bitch, or I'm going to get this to the running back no matter what. And there were 2 instances in particular. There was one where he should have pulled it on an Austin Eckler run, that if he would have pulled it out, everybody crashed down. He pulls that thing out, it's 40 and out the gate for a touchdown. There's another play in the red zone where he keeps it, and he should have gave it to Austin Eckler, and there's a pulling tackle and guard, right? Cosme and Wiley are pulling through the hole on the opposite side, and if he gives that thing to Austin Eckler, I think Eck walks into the end zone. So he's got to be sharper in his decision-making at the mesh point of those read options, and I expect him to be better there as well. So, this kid is so locked in, man. And you're just listening to him talk and, talk about the things he talked about, not loving people talking about him and watching people talk about him. I'm like that too. Like, I don't like watching, my videos. I don't like listening to my own voice. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like people, like watching people talk about me. It doesn't feel good, even if they're saying something nice about me. You know what I mean? It's just awkward. Feels weird. Sort of like how I always make fun of people who talk in the third person. It's awkward and it's weird. So is listening to somebody talk about you. It's awkward and it feels weird. And he's like, I really try to stay away from it because I don't like it. Right. And I can definitely feel him on that. And he's like, but I got a good dose of that last year at LSU. You know, when you're going through the Heisman Trophy thing and, you know, you're having the success. And he said, and even going through the draft process, you know, you turn on the television and they're talking about you going to Top Golf or, you know, the Raiders want to trade for you. He didn't say that. I'm just telling you that he was a hot topic of conversation quite a bit last year. That's what happens when you're going to be one of the top picks in the draft and you're highly scrutinized and people start making up shit about you and trying to test your character and all of that stuff. And so he's like, you know, I kind of got used to it last year, but just try to, you know, block all that noise out and just focus on what I got to do. And he talked about, you know, you can tell he really enjoys basketball. You know, you've seen his routine before the game with the basketball. And he said, you know, when I get out of the building, I put in so much work from the time I wake up to the time I leave the building. I put in so much work during the day. So when I leave, you know, I get away, right? Because I know when I show up tomorrow, I'm gonna do it all over again. And he said one of the things he loves to do, you know, is watch basketball. He enjoys watching basketball. Him and Bobby Wagner talk about it all the time. So our quarterback is awesome. There's so much awesomeness that, you know, that exists within JD5. We're blessed, you know, because it's not just the physical gifts, it's the mental side of things too. That, like, I think Shedeur Sanders is super talented. I worry about this up here. I don't worry about his physical gifts. I worry about this shit up here. I like he couldn't be my quarterback. Gives me Robert Griffin III vibes. I want nothing to do with that if I'm a team. But he's so talented. He'll be the best quarterback coming out this year. I believe that. But you got to deal with some other shit with him. We don't have to worry about that. Our guy is awesome. He's awesome. He got one of them ones, man. Every day I wake up, I'm like, pinch me. Is this shit real? We got one of them ones? Are you kidding me? And I pinch myself and I'm like, ouch, don't do that shit again. That hurt. Yes, we have one of them ones. Got it. Noted. That's my quarterback. Yes, indeed. C-Trail. That's my quarterback. Indeed. So we transition now to our first look at our week number 7 opponent, and that would be the Carolina Panthers. They are 1-5 on the season, but that's not important to me. What is important is that they pose a significant threat to us, because if we want to get to where we ultimately want to go, you got to beat teams like Carolina. There's no if, ands, or buts about it. I want to say this too before we really dig into Carolina. I want to say this because I think it bears mentioning at this point. I talked about this on Monday on 7.1 that my expectations have changed. Or that was episode 7.2, actually. Excuse me. My expectations have changed. And I tried so hard. And the intent was never to have expectations this season. It was just to have fun. Go through the process, the ups, the downs, the highs, the lows, the peaks, the valleys. I was willing to ride the roller coaster every single turn, every single twist, every single drop, every single dip. And I was going to, be okay with however the season turned out, knowing that we were on the right path. And then week 3 happened, and all of that talk that I preached all offseason went out of the window. And I have to admit this now, because I talked about no expectations, right? This was supposed to be this season. If we're looking for the proper analogy, this season was supposed to be a relationship with no strings attached. right? Booty call at 3 in the morning, 2 in the morning. Hey, big head, what are you doing? Right? You up? Right? It was supposed to be that kind of season. You up? And there was supposed to be no feelings involved. Don't catch feelings. You know what this is. It's strictly a transaction here, right? Week 3 happened and I caught feelings. I want a relationship. And there's no going back. I'm in it for the long haul, right? And so it's games like this now where I hate that I have expectations. These are the games where you just, hey, let's just enjoy whatever. If we win by 1 or 31, let's just be happy we won. It's hard to do that when you now have expectations. That's the part that sucks, because a lot of you were upset in week 2 when we beat the Giants by 3 by kicking 7 field goals. You were pissed. I had to talk some of you off the ledge in week 2. And it was easy for me to do that. Why? Because I hadn't caught feelings yet. There were no strings attached in week 2. It was transactional. Hey, what are you worried about? We won. Who cares what it looked like? We didn't punt. We scored 7 times. They were all field goals, but we won. That's not going to cut it now, right? Right? Not after what we've been through. Not after what we've seen this team be able to do. Not after what we did in week 3 or in week 4 or in week 5. Hell, even week 6 to a lesser degree. Winning by 3 or 6 or doing what the Eagles just did against the Browns, that doesn't feel suffice, right? Really feels like we need to do what everybody else has been doing in Carolina. And not everybody's blown them out, but everybody scored a bunch of points against them. The Panthers are currently giving up over 33 points a game. It's the worst in the NFL right now. We'll talk about that tomorrow when we go behind enemy lines. You want to know something else? The Panthers are currently scoring a league low. Well, not league low. Let's not get too carried away. There's some teams that are offensively challenged, if you know what I mean. But they're scoring 17 points a game. You remember when that used to be us? Back in the days when I was young, I'm not a kid anymore. But some days I'm so glad I'm never that kid again. I never want to be that kid again. So glad that that's not us. So you see the discrepancy there? They're being outscored per game by 16 points. Doesn't feel like an eker, a squeaker is going to get her done here. You feel like this needs to be another one of those ass whoopings that we've been conjuring up here of late to inferior opponents. I know you've seen the line this week. Go over that tomorrow, but I know you've seen it. Probably for some of you, it makes you uncomfortable. I know. I've read the comments, right? I know some of you are uncomfortable with the line this week. Well, I'm not. Okay? I'm not. I'm looking forward to seeing this team attack this opportunity like they've done in previous weeks with aggressiveness, with vigor, and I look for them to come out and bounce back from a tough loss on the road to a damn good Baltimore Ravens team here against the Carolina Panthers on Sunday. Is it going to be easy? No, because the Panthers aren't going to just lie down. And here's the thing. It's not like this is a veteran team that's won games that is going to, shut it down once things go off the rails, right? This is a young team that's trying to figure shit out. They don't know any better. They're going to go out and they're going to play hard because they're young and they're getting another chance to play football. So if you come out here straight cold tripping, they're going to let you have it. And like I said, their average terms of points scored per game have been grossly affected by Bryce Young's ineptitude the first 2 weeks. So if you minus those first 2 weeks and you start looking at them since Andy Dalton took over, that's not a 17-point game offense this season. More like the 20s, 24, something like that. All right, they scored 36 against the Raiders. They scored 24 against the Bengals. They scored 2 or 20, 20, it was 20 against the Falcons last week. The only game with Andy Dalton in the lineup where they didn't put up points was against Chicago. I want some of that action. But we got to go out and we got to do that. So this is going to be an interesting game because they got some talent over there, man. Xavier Legette, talented. As I mentioned already, Deontay Johnson, talented. Jadavion Sanders, the guy that we kept talking about as a potential draft pick here in Washington out of Texas, talented. Chuba Hubbard, talented. Offensive line, getting better. Interior, talented. I don't love him, but J.C. Horn, talented. So they're not to be slept on. But we also have a mission to carry out. And on Sunday at 4:05, they're standing in the way. They're standing in the way. We got to handle business. All right, so let's get to social media maneuvers. I'm a Midnight Marauder. Y'all know what it is. Big shout out to all the Patreon supporters. Big shout out to the mob, the MOBB. Really appreciate y'all for holding down the kid. And so let's get to any and everything that you guys want to talk about here in the comment section. And so we start with Harambe 2024. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Harambe writes, Lou, what's crazy is I used to be the guy that was building a roster first, then getting your guy a QB. JD5 has proven to me that that guy is there. You take that mother effer without him, you're like, what, 1-5, 2-4? Yeah. Like, we don't win the Giants game without him. We don't win the Bengals game without him. And look, who are we kidding? Probably don't win those other two either, but maybe you beat Arizona. I mean, we won by a significant amount, but he was awesome in that game. Maybe you don't beat Cleveland. Cleveland stinks. You probably would have been able to beat them with whomever at quarterback. They suck right now. But you're definitely not beating the Giants in week 2. You're definitely not beating the Bengals in week 3 without him, for sure. At a bare minimum, you're at best you're 2-4 right now. At worst, you're 1-5. You would have won a game this season, but we're one of the worst teams in football without him. And I was too. I was preaching that preach, right? Hey, build the roster up, drop the quarterback in the middle. I was preaching that shit too when Rivera was here. I was that guy. But that's what you tell yourself when you don't have the quarterback. Hey, let's just build the infrastructure. Let's just get this thing nice and tidy and ready for when we finally do get the quarterback. And they failed to do that, which is why we don't have as much talent as we should. They wet the bed when it came to acquiring talent on this roster devoid of a quarterback. They still effed it up year after year after year. We got one of them ones now. And so now the real building begins. Because now I got a guy that can win. Now you got to surround him with the talent that's going to allow him to win, and not just only win, but win big. That's the next goal. Harambe 2024, been a member for 29 months. Who writes, no B-Rob, 11 carries, 30 yards behind 2 scores. At the end of the day, they didn't. When I went back and watched the film, we had way more good hits in the run game than I recalled. I thought there were like one or two. The first play of the game was a good hit in the run game. And then Jeremy McNichols had a good hit. And I thought that was it. Like, that was my recollection. Then I went back and watched the film, and I'm like, well, shit, we got 6 yards on that carry. But damn, we got 4 yards on that carry. Hell, we got 5 more yards on that carry. Why didn't we run it more? But there were also loss of 2, loss of 1, no gain. And that hurts the average as well. And those runs put you behind the sticks. And it's easy to kind of get away from that when those are happening. But we were also having success throwing the football too. And when you're having success throwing it, it's easy to just say, well, let's just do it again, right? LT, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. LT writes, if a bad Philly team goes 2-0 versus WC, you guys frauds? I guess that's Washington Commanders. If a bad Philly team goes 2-0 against us, are we frauds? No. Look, we crashed the party early. I'll be disappointed if you guys beat us twice, because that means you're probably going to win the division. And this is our division. We run this shit now. So frauds? No, because frauds would mean we're not serious. And we're not going away. Oh, no, we're here to stay. We might not be ready for the division crown in year 1. That might be what that signifies, because it's only you and us. It's only the Eagles and the Commanders. It's a 2-team race. Cowboys are out of this thing, and I won't count the Giants out just yet, because we still play them once. They play you twice, and they got Dallas once more, and their defense is really good. And their defense is going to give them a shot. They just don't score enough points. So I really would say that they're out of this thing too. It's really just the Eagles and the Commanders. And our schedule and your schedule are both conducive to both of us getting hot at some point and winning a bunch of games. And so if you go 2-0 against us, you're probably going to win the division. And we can't let that happen. So fraudulent would be a strong word to use when we got the best quarterback in the division. But I'll tell you this much. It's always been a dogfight when y'all played us. When we had, no matter who we had at quarterback, you always struggled with us. The only time you didn't was when we had Carson Wentz. But when Heineke was out there, you struggled. Hell, we signed a dude up on Monday, threw him out there on Thursday. What was his damn name? Oh, shit. Who was the quarterback that we signed and played y'all on a Thursday because of COVID? And we was up like 10-0, and we should have beat y'all ass in that game. It don't matter who we got at quarterback. We play y'all tough. Sam Howell, Taylor Heineke. What the hell was that dude's name? Garrett Gilbert. Thank you. Thank you, Ayman Ahmed. Garrett Gilbert came in this bitch, and we asked you, hey, what's eating you, Gilbert? He said grapes. And we almost won. I find it hard to believe that with those quarterbacks and with those rosters, us coming that close and then actually beating you up once on a Monday night in your building, in your place. Good times. Find it hard to believe that this group can't replicate that, can't beat you now that we're better. But we'll see. That game doesn't take place till week 11. I'm worried about week 7 right now. JB, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, JB, thank you for the super chat. Christopher McLaughlin, my guy, Chris, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for your tremendous generosity, man. Can't thank you enough. As always, really, really, truly do appreciate you and all that you do for the Louie T Network. My guy, C-Mac, thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Right. Hey, Lou. Hope all is well with you and the family. What's up, Chris? Likewise. Likewise. Going to the game on Sunday to see Darryl Green's ceremony. Awesome. Awesome. That should be great. Darrell Green deserves it, and fans like yourself deserve to be in attendance to see it. Know the mission, absolutely. What's understood doesn't need to be said, right? 4 questions. 1 and 2. What has surprised you the most besides Daniels and concerns you the most on offense so far? And 3 and 4, same questions about the D. All right. So, what has surprised me the most besides Daniels is the efficiency of this offense. How I told you there's been so much space created. I didn't think that was the case on Sunday against the Ravens for the first time this season. Didn't feel like we created a ton of space. Whether it's the run game or the pass game, there were some concepts where we got 3 guys within, 5 yards of each other running similar routes, and you're like, there's no way that those guys should all be there. Like that looks like some Eric Bieniemy spacing, right? Where you go, what the hell? Like there was a route where Terry came off the line of scrimmage. He almost ran into Luke McCaffrey, and I'm like, that's not how that's supposed to go. Like we looked a little out of sorts at times on Sunday, but for the most part, the offense has just been refreshing, and I think the most surprising thing has been the creativity, the execution, and the consistency with which we've done that this season. Even with Jayden Daniels at quarterback, these have been some great play calls. The flea flicker screen against Baltimore, that was gorgeous. What? I've seen it before. It's not like the first time I've ever seen it, but it was still dope as hell. Out of that formation, I've never seen it out of that formation. You have 2 running backs in the backfield. You fake it to one, you hand it to the other. One goes and picks up the guy. The other one tosses it back and helps block. And then the guy that blocked first, which was Austin Eckler, releases, and the other running back takes over that block, and you toss it to Austin Eckler on the screen. And it was tremendous execution. How about the rollout to your right, throwback screen to Austin Eckler versus the Giants? Like, there's been some really sexy plays this year that we've run where you go, that was delicioso. So I've been really impressed with the play calling and the diversity of it, the different types of runs we've gotten to, and again, the space that's been created offensively. I think we've done some really good things. So that's been one of the things that I've been very surprised by. Obviously, the ineptitude of the defense. I told you I thought this defense was going to be the catalyst of this team, right? So conversely, you asked me what and what concerns me the most. We'll get back to that on offense. But the thing I'm most surprised about defensively is how bad they've been, right? I thought that defensively they were going to be able to scheme things to help offset some of the deficiencies, some of the guys that we don't have, some of the talent that doesn't exist. I thought we'd be able to scheme up some shit to circumvent some of the issues that we had. I also thought Daron Payne was going to kill it this year. He has been a disappointment to this point. And while he hasn't been terrible, I just thought that Daron Payne, I'm looking up at like Dexter Lawrence and he's got like 7 sacks. And I'm like, he's got 7 sacks? You have like a half a sack, bro. What's going on? Like, where's the Daron Payne that I saw in the contract year that no one could block? What happened to that guy? And I thought this group was going to get that out of him. I just haven't seen it. So now I will say the first 3 weeks of the season, he's, up the field like a madman, but he wasn't making any plays, So now he's kind of gone back to, let me 2 gap, let me stay in my gap, let me make sure that just to clean up some things, which I think we all appreciate, because the whole 1 gap, penetrate, get up the field, be disruptive, that shit wasn't working. But I just thought he would have been more of a factor to this point, and he hasn't been, and that's been surprising to me, very much so. You go back to the offense and what concerns me the most on offense, and I'll tell you that offensively, I worry that we'll see some of the things that we saw this week against Baltimore start to rear its head. And not everybody's Baltimore. Not everybody is fine-tuned to the small details. Not everybody is as disciplined and as athletic as they are defensively, but they did a great job of taking away his legs, right? Kept him in the pocket when things broke down, which is fine because he can throw from the pocket. It's not like he has to run. He's not Justin Fields, right? Keeping him in the pocket isn't his kryptonite. He can throw a football. That's not an issue. But, you know, what happens if we don't stay true to our identity and we don't run it enough and we're not good on second downs in particular, or first and second downs, and we're not setting up third downs that are manageable? Is that an issue that moving forward could be problematic and you could see this team struggle a little bit? Maybe. I don't expect that to happen every week, but they did a really good job containing Jayden the runner, and that's a huge part of what we do too, right? I think getting B-Rob back will, you know, help the offense, you know, be more balanced and get kind of back to who we are. And but you know, what if, you know, the run game isn't working? What we haven't seen yet, and I have no doubts that this could take place because he's one of them ones. But what we haven't seen yet is, and we were very close to seeing it, and I kind of felt like we did kind of see it on Sunday against the Ravens, but we haven't seen us in a situation where, all right, we're down, run game's out of it right now. We got to throw the football and we got to rely on 5. Kind of saw that in the Ravens game. We were down 2 scores, had to have it, essentially put the game on his shoulders and say, hey, we got to have it on this drive. We don't get it on 4th down, it's over. And he delivered. So we kind of did see that, but I don't want to see that a lot right now. Yeah, I really want to stay true to who we are, stay balanced, run the football, that sort of thing. So I am concerned that could there be more of these games in the future? And if so, can we handle them better than we did on Sunday, right? I don't want to bring up what my biggest concern is. I'm not putting that out in the atmosphere. You probably, if you're smart and you know me and you've been with me long enough, then you probably know what I'm thinking, and I'm not going to say it. As far as the defense is concerned, my biggest concern is that it gets worse. You lose Jonathan Allen. Javonte John Baptiste has been playing well. He's out. We don't know how long we're going to be without Dorrance Armstrong. It could get worse. And I worry that it might. That's my worry. My biggest fear is that I already know what this defense is. So there's not many things right now that would surprise me when it comes to this defense. I'm more surprised when they do something well than when they don't, because I think we've been trained now to look at this defense and expect them to give up things. And when they don't, you go, huh. It's like finding a $20 bill, right? You don't go outside expecting to look down and see a $20 bill. But if you do, hey, that was awesome. That was great. That's kind of how I feel about getting stops. On defense, I don't expect them. But if we do get one, hey, this might be our lucky day. I don't expect turnovers. But hey, that's another thing I will say. I expected a lot more turnovers. Man, was I wrong about, because even if the defense wasn't good, I was like, they're going to play a brand of football that's going to induce turnovers. What I've realized, I watched the Steelers this weekend. TJ Watt he's an animal. He should be caged. Okay, he's an animal. And what I realized is you got to be a dog and you got to go after it. And we just don't have enough of those dudes, right? Benjamin St. Juste against the Giants went aggressively after the football and punched it out. We don't have enough dudes looking to do that. So you're not going to force turnovers unless you're looking for them actively. TJ Watt punched out 2 footballs against the Raiders. We don't have 2 punch outs the entire season. I think we only have 1. Maybe we have a second, but we only recovered 1. I think we might have punched 1 out against Arizona on a kickoff, but we didn't recover the shit. He had 2 in 1 game. That changed that game. Both of them were recovered by the Steelers. One of them, the Raiders were on the 1-yard line going in for a touchdown, and he punched it out. These are intentional punches. We don't think that way. Our guys aren't going to dislodge man from football. Our guys aren't breaking on footballs to pick it off. They want to go make the big hit. The ball was there. If you were looking for the ball, you could have picked it off, but you were worried about hitting the guy instead of looking for the ball. You got to be wired different. Like Sean Taylor was looking for the hit when he couldn't get the ball, but trust to believe if that ball was in the air and Sean had a chance, he was going after the football. If I can't get to the football, I'm gonna get to your ass. And we're backwards. Instead of us trying to get to the football, we're trying to get to the man. That's how we end up with pass interference because we don't locate the football and we don't pick it off. And, you know, Quan Martin had a chance earlier in the season on a ball, and you know, I don't think he would have got it, but he wasn't even looking for it. The quarterback realized Quan was breaking on that shit. And it was Andy Dalton, matter of fact, in week 3, and Quan broke on it beautifully. And Dalton saw him breaking, and not Dalton, excuse me, Burrow saw him breaking on it, knew it, and airmailed it. But even if that ball was thrown where he wasn't looking for the ball, he was going to hit the receiver. He never turned to locate the football. Quan had another opportunity to pick the ball off, and he dropped it. Benjamin St. Juste had a chance to pick up the ball, and he dropped it. So that's one of the things that has surprised me is that we just haven't gotten more turnovers. But that's not who we are. We got to go get those dudes. That's what Forbes was supposed to be. Unfortunately, he hasn't been. One of those dudes that has that mentality of, I'm going to take it away. He even had opportunities in his career and has dropped interceptions. So anyway, those are some of the things that have surprised me. A good thing, if you're looking for a positive on the defensive side that has surprised me, I talked about Javonte Jean-Baptiste and what he's been able to do. That's been a pleasant surprise. Dante Fowler Jr. I kind of knew what he was, but I didn't expect him to play as big of a role. And he was huge in the game on Sunday, and he's really been good all season long thus far. He's been, not necessarily a surprise because I knew what he was, but this is on a much larger scale that I had anticipated. I told you, I like my Dante Fowler Jr. in 30% increments per game. I don't need him playing more than 30% of the snaps, maybe 40 if need be. I mean, this guy's he's been pressed into action due to injuries, and this guy's been playing 60, 70% of the snaps, and he's been fantastic. Fantastic. Wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting Mikey Sainristil to have to go outside and play boundary corner. And one of the biggest surprises has been Noah Igbenogany. Didn't see that coming. When we signed him strictly off of special teams, didn't think he was going to be a factor defensively at all. And I was dead wrong about Michael Davis. I thought he'd be Ronald Darby. We gave him a shot in week 2, and he pissed that opportunity away. Now he's just a guy on the roster. If you can't tackle, I can't put you on the field. And so he probably won't get another shot unless it's out of necessity. So, Mr. Ron B, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Mr. Ron B, OG, triple OG, writes, the JD effect means opponents can't view us as food. Feels good, doesn't it? Back it up with some dubs, and I think we will. The Jayden Daniels effect means that opponents can't view us as food. Facts. Facts. Those days are over. Like, there was a time, not very long ago, okay, more like not just a month ago, where if we were on the schedule, hey, we better win that game. That was, you saw our name on the schedule. Hey, Mom, get out our finest silverware. Get out our whitest napkins. We're finna have a feast. Yeah, get me 2 of them. One for my lap, one for my neck. I want the shiniest silver you got. this is finna be a feast. We got to eat. That's no longer the case. You don't circle us on the calendar anymore as a win. Yeah, or you can at your own discretion. Good luck. But that ain't how we operate anymore. So, man, it's a fun time to be alive as a fan. You know, I was going to pick up my kids from the daycare, and one of their daycare providers is a Commanders fan. And, you know, I wear my Commanders stuff, you know, when I'm picking them up, I throw a hat on or whatever. And so she's like, "You're a Commanders fan?" And yeah, we talked. And so she knows I'm a Commanders fan now. And she's like, "I don't want to talk about Sunday's game. I know you're just as mad as I am." And I'm like, "Yeah, we're fine though. You know, we'll get them next time." She was hot, but she got expectations now, right? She didn't have expectations before. And don't embarrass me, that sort of thing. Now it's like, nah, I expect to win. She's pissed. She thought we were going to beat Baltimore. And it's a beautiful thing, you know? If you were a Panthers fan a month ago, this was one of the games you looked at and said, "Hey, man, I don't know how many we going to get this year, but hey, we better get this one. We better beat Washington," right? And now I've turned the tables and I'm like, look, Carolina's going to win 3, 4, maybe even 5 games this year. They might win 5 games this season. We'll see. Here's the thing. We can't be one of them. We can't be one of them. I don't know where you're going to get them from. We can't be one of them. Feels good. Feels good. Feels damn good. Navy Ramjet, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Navy Ramjet writes, "Blessings, Lou. Likewise, Navy Ramjet. The champ is here." Indeed, he is. Hell of a job getting it done in the weekly pick 'em pool, man. To me, the next 4 games are vital. Beat the teams you are supposed to. Time of possession is key for us. +1 in the turnover margin so far. Time to push that up. But I digress. You are 110% spot on. I'm taking it one at a time. I'm going to continue to reiterate that. But because I learned one of my biggest lessons learned over the last, call it a year, because it was this time last year that I made that mistake. It was probably a couple weeks prior, a year ago, but same difference. I was so emotional. Like Carl Thomas, "I'm emotional." I couldn't let go of that loss to the Eagles, right? Remember that game, that first Eagles loss in Philadelphia, when Ronald was a B word at the end of the game? Jahan catches the touchdown to tie the game, or, you know, to put us down by 1 with no time left. Eagles are gassed defensively. And instead of going for the jugular vein, he told us when he first got here, when you're on the road, you go for 2 in those situations. He went for 2 against the Giants his first year. We didn't get it. We lost. He was criticized for it, and he bitched up on us when he got the second opportunity against Philadelphia 2 years later, right? And I was so in my feelings. I was hurt. We went to overtime. Terry's catch inbounds was ruled out of bounds and not a catch, and they ultimately went down there, got the field goal, and win the game. We had them on 3rd and forever, and we gave up. We were playing 20 yards off on 3rd and 16 so they could catch a simple 7-yard, you know, slant and get the necessary yards to get in the field goal range. And then they beat us. All right. I was so emotional after that game. I was pissed. I came on and I said, we not only gonna see y'all in 4 weeks, we gonna win every game leading up to that game. And when we see y'all again, we gonna bust your shit to the white meat show, this, that, and the third, and we gonna beat y'all and we gonna be in first place. I was in my feelings. I wanted that one, right? And I started playing the 4-week at a time game. We got the Bears, we got the Giants, we got the Falcons, and then we got y'all, right? And I did that thing, right? I did that thing that you don't do. Started counting victories and I started looking at it 4 weeks at a time. We're going to win all these games and we're going to see y'all again and we're going to bust your shit. And the next week, quick turnaround, third, we got our shits kicked in. Belt to ass. At the crib. Beat Atlanta. And then got smacked around by the Giants. Could only muster 7 whole damn points. Wow, 7. Yeah. Boy, that feels like a long time ago. And by the time we got to the Eagles, we knew the shit was over. So I learned a valuable lesson. Not doing the 4 weeks at a time thing. The Panthers are next. That's all I care about. That's all I want to talk about. And if we take care of that, then we'll go on to the next opponent, the Chicago Bears. But I don't care about the Bears. I don't care about that game being flexed. That's the Jayden Daniels effect. Hell, that's the Caleb Williams effect. But I don't give a shit about that. That's next week. Next week don't help us this week. But to your point, and this rings true, whether you're looking forward to the games into the future or you just going 1 week at a time like myself, this rings true. You got to beat the teams you're supposed to beat, and we can do that now. I used to say, who are we? Remember, I was always used to tell you guys, who are we? To look at somebody else and say to them, we better than you, we supposed to beat you. Who are we to do that? Now, I'm like, we us. And we got one of them ones. So, yeah, we supposed to beat you. I do look down my nose at the Carolina Panthers. We supposed to beat you. And I don't feel bad for saying that. Because once upon a time, we were the team. Teams used to look down at it and say, oh, you the Commanders. We supposed to beat you. So, yeah, I agree with you in that regard. We got to take care of the ones we're supposed to take care of. And this is one of the ones we're supposed to take care of. You want to win the division? You want to play bonus football? You want to stomp with the big dogs? Got to beat the ones you're supposed to win. Got to beat the teams that you're supposed to beat. Win the ones you're supposed to win. Take care of the ones and take care of the business that you're supposed to take care of. It'd be nice to create some turnovers and take care of the ball. And like you said, push that turnover margin up from +1 to like +4. One small step at a time. If we could go 2 games in a row with forcing a turnover, because we haven't done that yet, right? Well, yeah, technically, I take that back. We forced a turnover against Cleveland. We also gave it away twice in that game. So we can go 2 weeks in a row. I'll take it a step further. We can go 2 weeks in a row winning the turnover battle. We haven't done that yet because we haven't forced any turnovers really this season, right? We can go 2 weeks in a row winning the turnover battle. I'll be happy. And even if that's +1 against Baltimore and +1 against Carolina, I'll be satisfied with that. We're making progress. What are you doing? Making cereal. Hey, why don't you pour me a bowl? What are we trying to do here? Force some turnovers. Hey, why don't you go ahead and create one for us? See if we can get that done. All right. Jay Sauer 99. Been a member for 33 months. Jay Sauer 90, excuse me. Jay Sauer 90 writes, finally going to a Washington game. I'm stoked, Lou. You're going to a good one too, because again, it's a pseudo night game. It's an afternoon game. This is so different because I can't tell you the last time, last time we played Carolina, it was in this same spot back in 2020 at home. It was an afternoon game and we lost that game, which was why they're on the list, the hit list this year. But excuse me. They're going to be more randomly time slotted games this season. Obviously, they just flexed the Bears game. It's cool to have those afternoon games. We had no afternoon games. We were so garbage last year. They was like, yo, just play your shits at 1 in obscurity. Don't bother nobody else with your shit. Just get them over with and leave us alone. All right. They gave us the Thursday nighter against the Bears, the Thanksgiving game, and they said all the rest of your shits is at 1 o'clock. We had like 2 games on the West Coast against Seattle and the Rams, so those had to be played at 4. But all the rest of our games, 1 o'clock. You know, we didn't have any home games last year at 4 o'clock because we were ass. This is going to be the first of what I think is going to be a bunch of 4 o'clock kicks this season for the Commanders. Because they're going to flex us a couple. It's the first, that was the first flex. We got 2. I told you 2 weeks ago, I said, hey, we're going to get flex. When I did the Jayden Daniels effect, I said, we're going to be flexed at least 2 or 3 times this year. That was before they flexed the Bears game when I said that. Well, we've gotten flexed once, but it might not be in a primetime window, but we got moved from 1 to 425. And that's now the game of the week on CBS. We're getting Romo and Nance. We weren't getting them at first. We're getting them now. And this ain't the last time we're going to get flexed this year. Enjoy the game, J Sauer 90. Enjoy the game, and hopefully they show up and show out for you, man. Really, really give you something to remember for your first ever game. Metaphor. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, Lou, this season got you smitten. P-whipped. Yeah. I ain't gonna front. I'm open, bro. Don't front. This team has got me open. I ain't gonna front. They got me open, man. Wide ass open. They put it on me. Pause. Swaggy P. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, not to quote Bruce Allen, but the culture is damn good. Yeah, it is. Finally, when that's being said, it's actually true. Whether we make moves or not before the deadline, I have confidence in Chef P to not only put us in a good situation, but in a winning situation. I think he's earned enough trust just off of the small sample size of the things that he's done, whether it's trading away Jahan Dotson when a lot of you were questioning that deal, trading away John Ridgeway when a lot of you were like, I'd rather trade away, Mathis. And not telling you that that was the right thing to do in terms of a personnel decision, but they knew who was a better fit for what they wanted to do, right? And they got something for him. And he was the one that had value. And you look at the moves that have been made in free agency, a lot of them have panned out. You look at the Noah Brown signing right before the season. It was on time. I wanted one of 2 guys, and both are playing extremely well. I wanted either Tim Patrick, and he's killing it for the Lions right now, or Noah Brown, right? And I wanted Tim Patrick. I'm not even going to front. A lot of y'all wanted Noah Brown, and I wasn't really interested in Noah Brown necessarily. But beggars can't be choosers, of what was available. It was either Tim Patrick or Noah Brown. I didn't want Noah Brown. I wanted Tim Patrick. Well, Tim Patrick didn't want us. He wanted Detroit. Noah Brown wanted us, and it's one of the best things that happened to us. Again, this offseason, this season, this entire 2024 campaign, starting in February, was filled with, I don't want that. I don't want it. Well, you may not want it, but this is what you need. All right? This is what you need. And from Dan Quinn to Noah Brown to whatever else you want to talk about that we didn't want, we got what we needed. So I got confidence in Chef P in whatever he decides to do. I agree. Rocky D. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Rocky D writes, I was at the game, got a pic with the owner, Josh. Was crazy. Lance Newmark, was shook when I called him for a picture. Many of our fans ignored him. I can tell he felt amazed that a fan noticed his work. That's dope. You got a picture with him too? That's dope. Because he's always been a behind the scenes guy. He's always been a behind the scenes guy. So he's probably like, shit, they know my name? You don't understand the depths of which this team and this fan base has been dying for success. If you got any parts of this shit, you will be revered as a hero. Let us win some shit this year. You all will be revered. We win a Super Bowl, everybody gets statues. Everybody's getting statues. Lance Newmark, I love him too. I'm glad you gave him some love. I saw somebody in the comment section say that they couldn't stand Romo, and I've seen a little bit of that going around. You know how I felt about Romo going into the game. I thought he was good. He called us the Redskins. I'm pretty sure most of you knew that. The mob got a kick out of that. Did he just call us the Redskins? Yeah, he called us the Redskins. He said that Jayden Daniels will be a future league MVP. I don't know if you caught that, but he said that. Now, Romo was gushing over Jayden Daniels. Even the incompletions he pointed out as, this is a veteran move, Jim. You see what he did there? He stared over to the left, moved the linebacker over, and came back. And even though it was incomplete, that's a veteran move, Jim. So Romo was hyped. He said, we're watching a two-time league MVP, and I think we're watching another one. Jayden Daniels is going to win the league MVP. Romo, he was nice to us. He was nice to us. I'm glad you gave him some love, Rocky D, because Lance Newmark needs some love too, man. John Perez, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, JP, writes, just here to say rip to the Cowboys 24 season. They trash. I am going to enjoy their demise. I'm not. I want this to be a slow, methodical, painful death this year, their season. Oh, yeah. I call them, I don't know if you watched the podcast today, but the name of their defense is Friendlies. They're Friendlies. And Trayvon Diggs his name is Soft Serve. He's as soft serve ice cream. I watched this man make business decision after business decision when it came to tackling David Montgomery. Got all the lip in the world, but when it came time for him to put it down, show what he was all about, he ain't want none of the smoke. And then when J-Mo showed up across from him, he cooked his ass like a steak from Friendlies. Don't go to Friendlies for a steak. Man, I'm going to enjoy the demise of the Cowboys. Lots and lots of fun. Cruising 26. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Cruising writes, is it me or is St. Juice actually good? You ask the fans, it's just you. It's just you. He's not good at all. I don't think he's as bad as the fans make him out to be. He's just miscast right now. And this goes for both sides of the football. If you've got a number 2 receiver posing as a 1, you're not going to get the proper results out of that receiver. If you've got a number 2 corner playing as a number 1, you're not going to get the proper results out of that corner. And there are a lot of fans that he's not even a number 2. That guy stinks. He should be out of the league. He's not as bad as people make him out to be. He's got his deficiencies. He is who he is as a player. But if utilized correctly and he plays to his strengths, and some of that is involves the officials allowing him to play because he's a physical player. Because of his limitations, he has to be physical. He can't just flat out run with people. But Benjamin St-Juste isn't as bad as people make him out to be, but he had a rough go of it on Sunday. He wasn't alone. He was put in some tough spots, and it was, I talked about it on the film stuff. He was put in some impossible spots to succeed. At the end of the day, I don't think he's as bad as fans think he is, but because of this roster and us not having a number one corner, he's going to look a lot worse than what he is. I've seen this man, and to me, he's better served against certain type of receivers. He does not play well against smaller, shiftier receivers. That's why he's going to get fits against a guy like Zay Flowers. That's the worst matchup for him. He does a lot better against A.J. Brown type receivers and guys, even Justin Jefferson to a lesser degree. Justin still got off, but he's a taller receiver. He's not as shifty. He can kind of stay with a Justin Jefferson. And he fought his ass off. We remember that game. He competed. We felt good about him in that game. I liken Benjamin St-Juste in a lot of ways to Bashaud Breeland. Abundance of confidence. Not fast, so got to be physical, can play with bigger receivers, not great against. Remember, Bashaud Breeland had that matchup against Des Bryant, and we were all like, oh, shit, we got us a corner, da-da-da-da-da. And then Antonio Brown cooked his ass and was twerking on us. And that was Bashaud Breeland. He couldn't run with the smaller, shiftier receivers. But those bigger body guys, that was right up in his wheelhouse. That's the same thing with Benjamin St-Juste. The biggest difference is Bashaud Breeland could catch. He didn't have a ton of interceptions, but if you made a mistake in his general vicinity, he could make you pay. Benjamin St-Juste, that just isn't his thing. But I think they're very similar. Very similar. But that's just me. Harambe 2024. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Harambe writes, thoughts on Chef AP? Any Michelin stars yet? Chef P is amazing. Amazing. I think our future is extremely bright, not just because of Jayden Daniels, largely because of Jayden Daniels, but because we got a general manager that is going to put us in the best positions to succeed. Is he going to get everything right? No, no one does. Don't fool yourself into thinking that he's going to hit on every pick and he's going to be, flawless in drafting and free agency. You're going to miss. So part of the game, it happens to the best of them. But he's going to hit more times than he misses, and his hits are going to be massive, and his team is going to be wildly successful while under his leadership. And we're heading in such a great direction. And it starts with him, right? When you get past the ownership group, it starts with AP. And under his leadership, this team is going places. We're going and we're going far. And I didn't expect to go this far, this fast. Harambe 2024. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Harambe writes, am I alone or is DQ growing on me? Refreshing. I think you're alone in the sense that it took you this long for DQ to grow on you. I think DQ grew on a lot of us a long time ago. I'm all in on DQ, and I've been that way, and most of us have been that way for a long time. The fact that you're just coming around, I don't know what you were waiting on, but everybody's got their process and the things that they need to see to feel comfortable. And I don't know what has done it for you in particular, but DQ's been, since he's gotten here, everything that he's said, everything that he's done, everything that he's preached has been something that we can all buy into. And I think the biggest thing that is the most noticeable with DQ is how he treats people. That's the first thing that sticks out to me. Even the media, the way he treats the media. I mean, he's just a good dude, and he cares about people. And I think when you're dealing with players, and like the story I told you earlier that Grant Paulson talked about with AP, with Adam Peters texting the players, family, and giving them an update about their son. Um, he said one of the most underrated aspects of an organization is that fans don't know about is how you treat a player's family or their VIPs, right? Like that matters to players a lot. And Adam Peters or Dan Quinn, Adam Peters too, but Dan Quinn in particular, he's such a good dude. And he cares about people. We told the story about F.A. Obata last year when he was still in Dallas and F.A. was here and he broke his foot, his ankle, or I think it was his foot against the Giants in week 11 last year. And he reached out to F.A. He didn't have to do that. Cowboys were still playing football games. It's not his player. F.A. had never played for him. He didn't need to do that. But he did it anyway, because that's who he is. He's just a good dude. And the players love him. And they respect the hell out of him. And so does the staff. So he's grown on us a long time ago. I'm glad that you're on board now, but I think he's been on board. I mean, I think most people have been on DQ's side for quite a while now. Harambe, 2024, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Harambe writes, nah, I'm not going to lie. At first, I was unimpressed with the hire. Oh my God, another retread person. But love how he's locked in and he's on the sideline. Most of us were that way. We all wanted Ben Johnson, or not all of us. Most of us wanted Ben Johnson. Some people wanted Mike McDonald. None of us wanted Dan Quinn. Maybe, I can't say none. I hate speaking for others. I speak for myself. I didn't want Dan Quinn, and most people didn't want Dan Quinn, but it wasn't our first choice. And, when we all talked about that in the offseason, and we went through that process, and we talked about how we were the last team to make a hire, and it felt like we settled, right, at the time. But that wasn't the case. They were thorough. They did their homework and their due diligence. And, rumor has it they wanted to pair a first-time GM with a coach with experience. And it's been a match made in heaven thus far. And we're reaping the benefits as we speak right now. So, love it. Harambe 2024. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Harambe writes, seen Falcons fans even saying they miss him. I haven't seen that. My sister's a devout Falcons fan and she can't stand him. But that really stems from 28-3, more so than anything else. She can't stand Kyle Shanahan. She can't stand him and anybody that had anything to do with 28-3. But I haven't heard any Falcons fans say, hey, we miss Dan Quinn. I think they miss him as a person, but as a coach, he would even admit he made mistakes. He's a different coach now than he was then, and we are reaping the benefits of that for sure. So that is going to do it for me, your man, Louie T, here on this installment of Commanders Nightly News. Look forward to chopping it up with you guys tomorrow. We will go behind enemy lines. We will talk about where the Panthers stack up statistically with us and what are some things that we can try to do to not only win, but win this game comfortably. That's the goal, is to not only win this game, cover the spread and cover it comfortably. And so we'll take a look at some of those things that need to be done in order for that to happen, among other topics. So we'll check the injury report, kind of see where we are there, and react to that tomorrow as well. But until then, I'm your man, Louie T, signing off. Got another super chat here. Hold on. Says, Harambe, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Harambe 2024 writes, well, I've seen it on YouTube and Twitter. No cap. I believe you. I just haven't seen it. But I'm not doubting it. We're glad to have him. I'm glad he's our head coach. He's done a phenomenal job to this point, and he's our fearless leader, and I think he can take us where we ultimately want to go. Unlike Rivera, who probably just simply rode the coattails of a hot Cam Newton, and that's how he got to the Super Bowl. I really think Dan Quinn has figured it out. And unlike, Ron Rivera, who just brought all of his coaches with him and didn't learn his lesson from Carolina. The only thing he learned from Carolina was, I'm not going to allow the team to get old. So instead of getting old, he just brought in a bunch of young guys. And so it was the young leading the young, right? Instead of some veteran leaders to kind of show the way to the young guys, et cetera, et cetera. Dan Quinn came in and he wanted different coaches with different backgrounds who thought different, who saw the game different, to all come together into this one big melting pot and have different ideas and put those ideas to work. And I think that's part of why this offense is so diverse and dynamic, is because you got Brian Johnson, and you got Cliff Kingsbury, and you got Anthony Lynn, and you got all of these coaches who have either been head coaches or seen a ton, have different philosophical beliefs on how things work, and you mash all of that stuff together, and it's made for a pretty damn dynamic offense, if I may say so myself. So, Ron Rivera, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Ron Rivera writes, did I hear my name? Yes, you did, Ronald. Yes, you did. You can go back into obscurity now. By the way, you're doing a solid job on ESPN. Keep it up. Keep it up. Anyway. Harambe 2024, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, F, we summoned Ron. No. It's okay. We don't mind old coaches hanging around, loitering, and praising us. Jay Gruden every week is praising us for things. Jay's a funny dude, though. I always used to tell y'all, you could go out and have a adult beverage with Jay. He's a good dude. You can share a couple laughs with him. Jay's funny. He took a picture with a fan that had on "I Survived" Snyder shirt on, right? And the caption on the post from Jay Gruden was, I'm glad somebody did. He said, F. I'm glad somebody did. I said, hey, Jay's a funny ass dude, man. Anyway, I digress. Harambe 2024, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, listen, Jay greater than Ron. I don't think anybody's questioning that. It's for as much of a lack of disciplinary, a lack of discipline that Jay had and instituted here in Washington. He was able to get the most out of the talent we had on offense. Defense was never shit when he was here, and we didn't have a run game really to speak of, but boy, could Jay scheme it up. Boy, could he scheme it up. Anyway, Harambe 2024, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, Jay invited to the tailgate. Ron, boy, bye. F out of here. Yeah, it's too soon. It's too soon. If not for Ronald, we don't have Jayden. Don't you forget that. If Ronald didn't come here and put together one of the worst seasons, because hell, we were awful in 2019. What did we get from that? Chase mother effing Young, right? You can F it up. You can F it up. Just because you're bad doesn't mean you're going to get something good out of it. Ronald put us in a position to get the quarterback that is going to turn this organization around. And for that, you should be forever indebted to Ronald Rivera. For that, you should forever be indebted to Ronald Rivera. Ultimately, you guys made fun of me, but that was Ron's plan. Ron's plan. That was it. I'm going to get you through the rest of this Snyder era. It's going to be tough, but I'm going to get you through. And at the end, I'm going to leave you a parting gift on my way out. Bravo. Bravo, Ronald. Well done. Ron's plan. Ron's plan. Harambe, 2024. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Morambe writes, you're right. It was a blessing that Ronald sucked. LOL. We had to go through the fire, right? We had to go through the struggle to get ultimately what we needed to get where we wanted to go. Somebody had to take it on the chin, and it was Ronald. And I thank him for his service. Indeed, I do. Harambe 2024. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Harambe writes, Ron, thank you for your sacrifice. Indeed. I second that. I second that. Anyway, I digress. You guys get out of here. Enjoy the rest of your evening. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys tomorrow. We got Thursday Night Football, another episode of the CNN. And so I'll see you guys for that. But until next time, you guys take care. Have a good one. God bless. And good night.
Here comes the diesel. Here comes the diesel. There's the snap. Hand to Riggins. Good hole. He's got the first down to the 40. He's gone.